Everything in life has an art form to it. Everything you do has an art form too. Here we discuss the art side of life. This is the Art of Arts podcast with your host, Chris Bowman.
All right, everybody, welcome into the Art of Arts podcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. I got a very special guest here with me tonight. I want everybody to say a big hello to my guest here, Mr. Antonio Pantoja. How you doing, sir?
Better than everything.
Better than he deserves. For those of you that don't know Antonio is a multiple-time award winner for film, for photography, and he's an all-around good dude. If you look him up on the internet, it'll tell you he's a Hispanic Latino filmmaker who's bringing down the house. It'll tell you about his work with the Voice Tribune that he's doing. It'll tell you that he started the Louisville Film Coalition. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It'll tell you that. It'll tell you about his film One Must Fall. It'll tell you about Hand Covers Brew.
Oh.
It'll tell you about his work in Extol magazine and many other publications. But it won't tell you that he's the nicest guy maybe in the entire freaking city. So, most humble dude ever, so he probably hated that intro. But everybody, the one and only Antonio Pantoja.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, man. I don't deserve that.
Oh, you
Just
do,
like I
man.
said.
You absolutely do deserve that. And I appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to me.
It's an honor to be here. You know,
Yeah. No, man, we go back a long way. We were just talking. I don't have any sponsorship, so Agave and Rye, we were just over there eating some tacos. So
That's right.
get with me. It's right next door. But we were over there talking about how long we've known each other. And we go back about 15, 16 years now, man. So it's a long time. I met you through martial arts.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that does seem like a different life.
Yes, it was definitely a different lifetime ago, I think. Just a little bit on the fly as we talk here, but I talked a little bit about your accomplishments, but how did you get started with photography and videography? Because when I first met you, I think you were working at a cell phone store or something, if I remember correctly. You were working for maybe one of the companies that's now defunct.
Yeah,
And
I was at a Sprint business office, so it was like a call center environment, and I'm actually like still in a call center environment. So I do that in addition to all the other things that I do. I still like run a small team call center, which I really love.
you still do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
still today, yeah. Because my kid's school's like $4,000 a month, and somebody has to pay for it. And, I didn't go to school past the 8th grade, so I really wanted them to have, like good education. But the way that I got into photos and video was about the time that you met me. I think my dad had passed away, and I had 2 seconds of video of him before he died, and I watched it a million times. Excuse me. And so my daughter would she was one when he had passed, and she'd tell me all the time, I wish you could tell me stories about your dad, and I said, baby, I think I've told you all of them. But I watched that video a million times, and it made me realize that you're immortal through video. Your story will live on forever. So I wanted to start shooting people like my dad, who would like she could put on a DVD and he would tell her stories like when I came here from Peru, I spoke no English and I had no friends, and she could skip each chapter and learn things about his life so that she would know him instead of just hearing stories from me. That she would know him like I know him, and he could talk to her directly. So I started chasing that down and looking for stories to shoot and stuff like that. And I shot some short films and stuff that I wrote. Um, and then I got to do like weddings and stuff, and I thought that those were like super emotional and started to tell stories through photographs. And yeah, that's kind of the way that I started. That's my why behind it.
I remember, man, you I don't know, maybe I romanticized this story. It was a long time ago, and I'll take a lot of punches to the head. But like you going out and just spending a bunch of money that you really didn't have at that time
Oh yeah,
to
yeah,
purchase the camera equipment to follow your dream.
yeah, yeah. My wife at the time had went and she took the kids on a vacation, and somebody's got to work, so I didn't go. And no, I think that she went. I had my daughter there with me still, Mia, and I bought a really expensive camera, but it's really it's really not expensive. At the time, it was like $700, but we
Right.
didn't have that, you know. And I just like she was the first thing that I had shot was like just the videos of her and stuff. Um, but yeah, it was really cool, and that's how I got into the very
Well,
first video.
I remember that we were rolling around in our pajamas doing Brazilian
Yeah,
Jiu-Jitsu at Chris Griffin's spot. Shout out Chris Griffin.
yeah, he used to
Uh,
choke me out all the time, by the way. So just for the record, I was never good, but he taught me a lot.
we were rolling around, and I remember you telling me that you just went out and bought this camera. I was so excited for you because I wanted to see what you were going to do. And I remember then you started working with some fighters, putting out just some promo videos under your eye candy films,
Yeah,
man.
that's right,
I
man.
I remember that, man, and I
That's right.
remember specifically one you did for Emilio,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was a lot in black and white. Maybe the whole thing was in black and white. I don't
Oh, really?
remember,
Yeah, yeah.
but I remember watching that video and being like, "This dude's gonna make
Oh
it." You know
man,
what I
thank you.
mean?
That's
And
so
I remember
awesome.
sharing those. Those were the early days of Facebook, and we just made the switch from like MySpace to
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
And I remember sharing those videos, and then came out with a short film. What was your first one? Hand Covered Bruise? Is that your first one?
I can't remember. I think my first one. I can't remember what it was called. But I used to just do them like with no audio, just with music, because I didn't know how to like record audio for real. So I forget what it was called. Remains, and it's about a guy whose wife has passed away, and he still has her remains, but also it's two pronged in that her like spirit still remains with him or whatever. So he was just like getting rid of her ashes. Pretty much.
I think it's cool, man. I'm one of them people that throughout my life I've always tried to follow my dreams. And to me, happiness is worth more than a whole lot of things that we can put a value on. So if I was unhappy doing something, I would just transition and find something else.
Yeah,
And that's led me down a lot of different paths. You know, we were talking about that earlier from, you know, being an MMA fighter, being an MMA coach, being an MMA judge, to owning my own business, and I used to work in the financial industry. And now I'm a full time tattoo artist and stand up comedian.
that's incredible, man.
And like, but honest to God, like you may not even believe this, but like you were an inspiration behind some of those things. You know, to be able to follow your dreams and see like you had this dream to go buy a camera and follow this dream, and then here you are now with a couple, you know, full length motion pictures under your belt and doing all this big stuff with the Voice Tribune
Oh man, thank you.
and dude killing it, you know. So I think other people can benefit from that too, you know. Like if
Yeah,
you want to take a minute, just speak on you know people following their dreams and not giving up and um, life's tough right now. It may be hard to make that transition into something you want to do, but if there's something that you really want to do, find the time and find the way to do that. You know, like,
yeah,
what do you think?
yeah. I totally agree. I think that a lot of what the thing that keeps people away from their own happiness, like the wedge that falls in between that, um, a lot of it is just self doubt or like being afraid and stuff like that. But I always say that like taking a big risk is extremely scary, but like what is even scarier than that? And it's regret. And if you don't do it now, then like you have to do it for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. And the execution part is very difficult, and a lot of people have a lot of amazing ideas on what they want to do and stuff like that. But until it becomes a plan, like until you formulate a plan, then it's just a dream. But once you start to formulate a plan of how I'm actually going to do this and execute on this, then it becomes tangible and something that you can actually do. But I think that you know, self doubt, and fear and uncertainty and things like that prevent people from actually like committing to things that they want to do. And that's really sad. And it doesn't take somebody to be fearless to commit to something like that. Sometimes it's like a situation where maybe you just don't like what you look like anymore, and you're tired of being out of shape so much that you need to make a change. And I think that complacency is like the most dangerous place that you can possibly be, because like people become really dangerous whenever like they're chasing something that they want, or they maybe they have, or somebody has doubted them or something like that. But it's when people are super comfortable where they're at, that's when
Yeah,
that's when it becomes dangerous.
I think that's how people end up in those jobs where And no discredit to the people that do that, but where you end up in a factory putting the bolt in that machine, in that one part
Yeah,
every day for 40 years. You
yeah,
know, like to me, I've never been one that would be content doing that. I don't think I could do it. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's that art part of my brain that just has to be creative.
yeah. Me too. We talked about it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I have that. I still struggle with that self doubt that you were talking about. You know, like I've been an artist my entire life and always wanted to pursue the art of tattooing, but was too afraid to didn't want to mess somebody's skin up permanently.
yeah.
You know, and there was a big fear of that. And I know that you used to
Oh
apprentice
yeah,
as a tattoo artist
right.
as well back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. And I think there's like this level of like imposter syndrome too. No matter with an artist, it's really weird because like you first start out and you're like, man, I'm the shit. You know, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the shit. And then you're really not though. You know, maybe. And then you go through these stages where you're like, I'm not shit. I'm really not shit. You know, and that's when you're kind of getting good. And then you start to see new people come along and they have the same kind of, like ego or mentality that you did. But it comes in waves, and I think a little bit of self doubt is really good because it keeps you really sharp too. I
Yeah,
think it's
I
really
think
good.
so.
And imposter syndrome is really great, but it can derail people. It just depends on you have to use a lot of this stuff for fuel, And I think one of the things that gassed me up, there's nothing more that would gas me up than a person that I didn't care for too much walking through those doors saying I can't make this next feature film. I start on it tomorrow.
Yeah,
But I think other people that might derail them. So I think it's not that I have harness some special superpower on that. I think it's you got to find the thing that gasses you up and pushes you and propels you and harness that and continue to go with that because you might be the person that needs positivity and people to gas you up and amp you up and stuff like that. But I think negativity like further gasses me up as much as it is. I'm not
yeah,
asking people to throw me shade and hate, but
yeah. Fuel from the
um,
haters, a
but
little fuel
sometimes
from
that
the
does.
haters.
Yeah, and I don't have any of that, thank God, in my life, and no negativity occupies my mind at all. Like that doesn't. I spend no time on that throughout my day. But I think there's nothing
And
quite
I
like
think
that.
that's part of what makes you you. You are literally, like I said, and actually I was trying to get the name of something correct, so I googled you, and there's actually an article out there that says, "Is Antonio Pantoja the nicest
Oh
guy in
man.
the city of
Oh,
Louisville?"
thank you, man.
And
Yeah.
there's an article out there on the internet that literally says that, and it's true. You have like the positive mindset. You go into everything positively, and that's a big inspiration not only to me but other artists as well.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and also the way that you give back, like you offer free photography classes from
Oh
time
yeah.
to time. You're all, I mean, you came here. You were nice enough to come here tonight and meet
Oh
me
man.
to start this
I'm
podcast,
the one that's honored.
and
Yeah.
you just always giving back, and
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes to your character as well. And
Oh, thank you,
I know
man.
your character. I know who you are, but other people may not. But it's true. Like you are literally one of the nicest people
Oh
I've ever
man, thank
met. You're truly inspirational, and like the things that you do to give back. Are you still doing those free classes from time to
you. I
time?
haven't in a while. I did one. The last one I did was last year, and it was at Waverly, like the sanatorium where everybody
Yeah.
died. So a friend of mine was the president there at the time, and I just wanted to kind of give back to the place. So I've never charged any money for any workshop I've ever done. It's always been free. And the first one I did, I didn't know if one person will show up or two people. And I begged some photography places around here to let me host it, and they wanted me to charge and stuff like that. And they didn't think I could, bring anybody. I didn't think I could either. Hell, so did my first class, and I think that like, I didn't know if 5 people might show up, but like 200 people showed up for the first one, and 300 people showed up for the second one, and people were kind enough to like loan me the space, like the Derby Museum and Sullivan College and places like that, which was super cool. But with Waverly, we did charge, but the money went back to Waverly, and then the people got something out of it, so they got like a hoodie and a tour of Waverly, which is pretty cool. And the image that we did is like super personal to me because I have some near death experiences, so it was that. And yeah, man. So I just basically like do like I talk for a little bit about inspiration and stuff and being kind, pretty much, and then I light shoot, edit, right.
Right on. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So everybody can follow you. We'll put your stuff up at the end, and where
There's
everybody
better
can
people to
follow
follow.
you. No,
Follow.
listen,
There's better people.
listen. Antonio, I told y'all he's the most humble guy ever. His stuff is amazing. He's got some new stuff out right now. I just saw that he's done with the Voice Tribune with your friend Dorian Washington.
Oh man, yeah,
And
that's my guy.
yeah,
I
there's
love
some
him.
really cool
Thank you.
stuff on there. Really just digging your work, man.
Oh,
Like,
thank you.
and I love the progression that you've gone down. Obviously, I was a big fan of your movie, One Must Fall.
Oh man, thank you, dude. That's so
Yeah,
cool, man.
dude, that was so cool. One of these days, I'm gonna actually come out and audition for a part.
Dude, that'd be awesome. Maybe for this next one, man.
I'm gonna try to get in. Yeah, dude, I'll dust up some cowboy boots or whatever.
Yeah.
Regulator,
Yeah.
you know.
That's it, man.
Yeah, we can do something, but I'm gonna do that. I was blessed enough to be able to be there at the premiere. This is
Man,
the
thank you,
Louisville
man.
Palace. It was a tremendous event. I had a great time.
Oh, thank you, dude.
And,
You come to the after party?
yeah, I
That was
went to
pretty
the
cool.
after party.
Thank
That
you,
was
man.
a sweet after
That was
party
cool,
as
man.
well.
Thank you.
And everybody there, all the actors there hanging out was super cool. We had a good time, man. About the friends out.
Man, thank you.
That time we still had the landscape company, and so we brought some people out from the company to check out the movie. And
Oh,
dude, that
cool,
was a
man.
tremendous event. Everybody check that out. It's on all the streaming platforms, I
Yeah.
think, man. It's called One Must Fall. Really great psychological kind of horror flick with a throwback to the 80s kind
Yeah.
of slasher films. And
Thank you, man.
yeah, really good, man. I've watched it a couple times since the premiere.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, I would do it totally differently now. You know, like I'm not super proud of it, but I think it's okay for a first go. You know, and
Yeah.
but yeah, my next ones are.
Dude, you
much
created
better,
a
much
full
better.
length feature film that won awards
Oh, thank you, man.
at several places. Like you gotta be proud of that. That was really cool. Man.
I was super lucky for all that stuff, but it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. All of the whole process is awesome, man. Like right now, I'm on my new one, and I'm doing it like the research phase. So I'm watching movies, you know, to get inspiration because it's a topic I don't know much about. So doing that, and then I'm going to be writing soon and casting, and then you start, you know, figuring out locations. You start bringing actors in, you start shooting, and then you edit, go through the film festival circuit. It's all cool, man. The whole process is super cool.
Dude, it seems super cool. And I was always rooting for you and come up to you going
Oh,
to a festival and like hoping to see you post about winning another award.
we played like 60 festivals. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
dude. How many awards do you think you have? In
Off of that film, we got 126 awards from that film.
126.
It's insane. We'd always be up for something. If we got accepted, you know, and we had a really successful festival run. So we were in like, I don't know, like 18 of 20 probably we got accepted to. They told me before I started, you know, I guess submitting to festivals that if I can just get into 1 of 10, that's a very successful run. That's extremely successful. So if I can just do that, so that was what I was hoping for. But the film I think checked a lot of boxes, and we did some like political posture stuff kind of before a lot of other films did, you know, and I don't know, we took a lot of chances to like try to break stereotypes and stuff like that. But I'll just speak from my own perspective, like seeing Hispanic people in films, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago and stuff. They were like angry maids or like
Danny Trejo.
yeah,
That's it.
angry wives, yeah,
Those are the only two
gangsters,
options.
drug dealers, you know, they're you know, hotel cleaning staff. You didn't really see like how they I don't know anybody like that who's Hispanic. So so we were able to break stereotypes. Not only that, but like African American and gays and stuff like that. So you can what's cool about film is like you're at least the films that I grew up watching, that you're like digesting this message. You're receiving this message that you don't know you're receiving. And while like for example, like you watch Labyrinth, remember with the Jim Henson film with David Bowie. You're thinking you're watching this amazing film with, you know, beautiful puppets and stuff like that, but really it's a film about this girl's little brother gets taken away and she's infatuated with very trivial materialistic items, but at the end of the day she realizes that, you know, those aren't important. Those are the trivial things, and materialistic items are not important to her. Her brother was the most important thing the entire time, but you didn't realize you were receiving this message while you're watching it. So I thought that was super cool. They used to embed these messages into these films we watched growing up, and I try to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I don't watch a lot of movies. I'm not a big movie buff. It's never been my thing. I don't watch a lot of TV in general. If I do, it's like some kind of documentary.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll watch a movie that's got a bunch of hype or something that I want to see. But I'm not a big movie buff. or maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. It could be
I'm
both,
dumb.
but like I never catch those subtle things. Like when I hear people talking about like film studies, which is it's a take on the geopolitical scale and France of the no, the fucking guy shot somebody. Like that. Like where did I miss this whole storyline that supposedly happened? Did I miss it? Like,
It's just like hearing songs though sometimes, like if you're at like a certain stage of your life and you've heard the song a million times, man. The song One by Metallica. Have you ever heard that before?
yeah,
Or no, not One, I'm sorry. There's what's the one where Lou Blood joins with her quickly he's consumed. What's that? Wherever I mean. Anyway, it's the song, you've heard it a million times and then you go back and you read the lyrics and you hear it this different way one time. And you're like, why is it so different, man? And you're like, oh my God, this song is about me. And I think that like when an artist like creates art, it's very selfish in the beginning because it is very much about you, and you're like, oh my God, this is totally about me. This is me. This is my story. But then you have like Adele who puts out a song and millions of people are saying, this is my story. This is my breakup. This is exactly my breakup. And I think that like when you create art and you put it out into the world, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the people and how they interpret it. And I think that's kind of like the beauty in it. But I think it is tough to get like the message. But yeah, you've heard songs where you're like, if you've had somebody pass away in your family, and then this song comes on, and you're like, I've heard this song a million times. It's just hitting
it
different
just
right now.
resonates differently
Crying.
for
Yeah.
whatever you're going through in that moment.
Yeah. The Unforgiven. That's the Metallica song.
Yeah,
Go back and listen to that, and you might be like, holy shit, that's me being complacent at work. And if I don't do something about that right now, I'm going to be that old man on my deathbed. It's that song, man. And that song got me one time. Heard it a million times.
Yeah, there's songs. I think everybody has a song like that.
Yeah.
Just touch them in the feels in just the right moment. What's funny to me is music is one of those things, and art too. I think like contemporary art, paintings and things can be, but I think especially with music, it can teleport you back in time.
Yeah.
And you can hear a song and think of a very specific memory. And music is one of those arts. I have zero musical talent. Like I have talent, but I have zero musical talent. I can't. I'm not a handyman. That's not my thing either. Now I can paint you a picture of a guy playing an instrument. I can draw you a sketch of a dude building a frame of a house, but I can't do either of those things. But I appreciate music. But I'm one of those people that never put any like brain power into memorizing lyrics, really,
Interesting.
or like even knowing who sings a song. Like I'll know a song, but I'll have no
idea. Yeah, probably autistic a little bit.
I probably am.
A little on a spectrum. A little bit on a spectrum.
I may have.
Not artistic. You got it all wrong. They were like, Chris, you're artistic. You said, but they were saying, oh.
I got you. More spectrum than a middle aisle at Walmart.
You were like, I'm artistic. I am artistic.
I think there is a little piece of that. But I never like put any brain power into that. Like I just, for some reason, it's not my, like certain 99% of celebrities, I couldn't pick them out of the
Wow,
if you told me their name, like, Benicio del Toro, like I would know him from Michael Douglas, like in the lineup.
Yeah.
Now I've seen movies that they're in and stuff, but there's certain things that like music that just can take you back. Yeah, I think that's what I love most about it.
What does it for you?
I don't know. You just hear something that like
you don't know the name of the song. You're like, I forgot the name of the song.
Yeah, whatever that song is. Yeah, like
I can't even sing it. I don't remember.
I don't do country at all. At all. Like
new stuff. My little girl introduced me to some pretty cool stuff that I didn't think I would like.
I can't do it. My kid's into rap. He introduces me to new rap and hip hop. Like I'm a hip hop guy. That's what I listen to 99.9%. And so this new hip hop, I can't really get into it. But like I was raised by my grandparents for a big portion of my life, not so much my parents. And had a rough upbringing, but they listened to that old country shit.
Yeah.
The Hank Williams Sr. and the Merle Haggards and the George Joneses, and so sometimes I'll hear one of those songs somewhere at a gas station or something. It'll take me back to being in their kitchen. Or,
Yeah.
Take me back to, because that's not something that I've heard since then.
Yeah.
And it's just like an immediate teleportation.
Yeah.
Back to being a little kid standing on some shitty linoleum floor in the kitchen while my grandma cooked something with lard.
Oh yeah, I
Like
love
the,
that,
the
man.
old school,
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's fun. And the same thing about, you see a painting or something, and it can take you back. That's something that's always fascinated me about art. The way that it can teleport you back in time just by hearing something.
Yeah, I think that with art, man, I think that it keeps me present. And I listen to this philosopher, Sadhguru, who's this Indian philosopher, and he makes a lot of sense a lot of times. And if anybody has seen him, he's done this interview with Mike Tyson, pre Jake Paul Mike Tyson, the real Mike Tyson. So he did this interview with him, and Mike Tyson asks one question: "Why am I so afraid?" And Sadhguru goes off for an hour, and it's like the most profound stuff I've ever heard. Well, in it, he's talking about, so I suffer from like severe anxiety and severe depression. And in this thing, Sadhguru says, anxiety is fear of the future and things that have not even happened yet that you're concerned about. And depression is fear of the past and things that have happened in the past you just cannot let go. So you're always living in these two spaces and you're not living in the present. And that's why it's because all the happiness exists in the present. And you're so caught up in things that have not even happened yet, things that have happened in the past, you can't even stay in the present. And it's so true, man. So I realized that the times that I'm like the most in tune with myself and not happiest, but like that I forget about those anxieties and depression are like when I'm in the gym or when I'm like shooting video or creating art and when I'm with my kids as well. And that is the only times that like I have that I don't have like severe anxiety and or depression because I'm not in the present.
No, I go, I don't, never had a conversation about religion. I'm not, I don't know what your religious upbringing is or what you do, what you believe now. I'm kind of agnostic, but I go to a Buddhist temple to meditate. I go
Wow.
to a Buddhist
Yeah.
temple for teachings. I read a lot of Buddhist material. I do meditation practices every day, multiple times a day. I chant Oms,
Wow, man. That's beautiful.
and different mantras as well, and that has helped me, you know, because I don't struggle with the same kind of thing, and some anxiety, depression, and things like that, and like you said, being mindful of this exact moment, and going back to martial arts training, Miyamoto Musashi said, whatever you're doing, do that thing.
Hmm.
Be present. If you're nailing down a floor, nail down the floor.
Yeah.
If you're washing the dishes, wash the dishes.
And
You don't.
Musashi is the undefeated samurai, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he talks about ways of tricking his opponent.
Yeah, the Book of Five Rings.
Yeah.
A tremendous book. Something that helped kind of really shape my foundation. That book in particular. Um, but he was on that. He figured that out. Like if you're whatever you're doing, be mindful of that thing. Put all of your energy and attention into that,
Hmm.
and you'll be happy because you're not, like you said, you're not staring out the rear view mirror or the front windshield. You're just present in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point you brought that up because that is a good way to stay happy. And for me, drawing is always the thing that I did, not for gain. I don't. A lot of times for years, decades, I didn't draw for money, but I would sit down at night and that would be my mindful meditation. It would just be me, the pencil, and the paper. And what get her in bed, whatever the case is, nothing else going on. Just losing myself, and I would realize that I'd be 2 hours into a portrait drawing, and I hadn't thought about any of the troubles of the day, none of the tribulations, hadn't thought about the shitty tasks that I got to do tomorrow. I was just drawing that picture.
Yeah.
And so that's always kind of been my escape from a shitty home as a kid,
Same. Me too. Art.
Yep.
Because you can make believe anything, and you can create anything. And I think that a lot of people have like these, especially if you come from like a family with addiction, um, they have these problems, and anytime that they have issues in their life, they turn to these problems like addiction, like I guess these outlets. And I think that if you can create like a healthy addiction, like to art or whatever it might be, the gym, whatever it is, I think all of us have like a little bit of addiction.
The price of
Yeah.
art materials.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's a
Maybe.
safe addiction. Like that is some expensive
You're like,
shit.
I wonder if I could smoke this.
Yeah, like we're trying to
The
start
pencil, dude.
this podcast. Look at all this equipment.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure this is a healthy addiction either.
Oh God bless. I know.
And but yeah, it's better than heroin.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
any of those things is definitely better
Yeah.
than heroin.
And some people like this, it's so different, like the way that people cope with things, like coming from a broken home and stuff like that. And, you see them cope differently. Like some people will, be very promiscuous and sleep around. Some people go through drugs and some people do other things. But I think if you can turn to art, man, it will always be there for you. And I think that's awesome. And it will keep you in the present for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's the same with stand-up comedy. Like when you're in that zone and you're on that stage and you're slinging jokes and you have to hold their attention.
It gives me anxiety to think about
Yeah, it's
me being there.
It's just you, the microphone, 300 people, and you got 45 minutes of nothing but you talk.
That's crazy, man.
And that is nerve-wracking. And if you're not in that moment and being present of everything going on in the room, shit can go awry.
Yeah, even like a second that goes by that's awkward that you didn't anticipate. I think like the
Or
crowd
handle
feels
correctly.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Dude, absolutely.
One time I went to see Chris at it was Louisville Comedy Club, and you had a set there. Actually, you jumped on because I was coming. It was super cool of you, and you were like, "I'll jump on because you're coming, or whatever." And so I went, and you killed it, by the way. It was incredible. But I think that we watched. I think there was like 20 comics that night, and there was like a good portion that you could tell like that. I mean that could have scarred them forever just being up there and delivering what they did, and they would do a million times better than I ever would. But you could tell like that would probably mess them up.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that. I've been doing the stand-up comedy thing now really seriously for about 6.5 years, and I did it for a couple of years before, but not years. And in that 6.5 years that I've been really serious about it, I've seen a lot of people come and go.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I bet they're
you see a
leaving with
lot
some
of
psychological scarring too,
yeah.
man.
You see some people, they think they're the funniest in their friend group. Oh, you should be a comedian. Oh, you should be a comedian. It's tough, man. Comedy is hard.
Yeah,
I equated a lot to martial arts training. Going to the open mics where there's 20 comedians. You have to sit there until your spot. You've heard these same jokes from the same comedians 3 days a week for the last 3 years.
yeah,
And like it's just a monotonous grind. And that is equivalent to drilling the technique. So, nobody wants to drill the techniques. You just want to do the match. You just want to square up and mano a mano, let's do this, nobody wants to do all the shrimping drills and nobody wants to do the you know what I mean?
yeah.
But those open mics are the drilling of the technique. And I get the same adrenaline rush, the exact same right before a big show as I do before I step in the cage or the room.
That's awesome, man.
So it completely replaced that adrenaline rush for me, and I think that's
Interesting.
yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to do on this podcast is try to find like the correlation. We all do things.
Yeah.
And really, they're all the same. We're all going through the same struggles. We're all trying to find ways. None of us have free time. People say in your free time. We're grown ass adults. We don't have free time. We make, and finding that common ground between them. And I think that's important. And I feel like it's something we could use definitely here in this community is to sit down and talk and figure out what correlations we have between your passions, between my passions, and realize that we are all the same.
Yeah, in my workshops, I always talk about like there's in photography and I don't know if it's art in general, but at least the medium that I'm in, like photography and video, there seems to be like this elitist separation between people who are perceptually good and people who are bad, But there really is none. There is none, and all art is all interpretation. It's all based on preference, just like beauty, But I think that I feel like it's like our civil duty to, like, if you feel like you're a little further along in your journey than somebody else is, there's no reason to like bash them and their photos and their work and maybe their comedy sketch that they just posted a video of in front of their friends and family on social media. Maybe just take it offline and help them out a little bit if you feel so inclined. But I think that there's this like elitist mentality where you feel like you can have your thumb over somebody if you just I don't know, bash them in front of everybody. And I think that's such a really terrible thing to do to somebody who's like on their journey, especially if you're like a little further in yours than somebody is.
Sometimes people need to hear that stuff.
Really.
Like there's some people
Yeah.
like, all right, hey, maybe change that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
I think criticism is great.
yeah, maybe photography's not for you. Maybe you should try drawing. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like encouraging, but like in a roundabout way, it'd be like, this fucking shit.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that is it. But I don't know, and maybe
Maybe that's comedy. Maybe people
yeah,
can learn to do photography and everybody can grow and get better. But listen, stand-up comedy, everybody is not growing and getting better.
really. You've seen the
So,
same people for many years who just never got good. Or
yeah,
better, not just better.
yes, and like just bomb for years on end with
Oh
the
man.
same jokes. And it's like that didn't work.
Maybe they're just a
Anytime.
glutton for punishment. They like
Yeah,
it.
I think so. Maybe that's their kink. Maybe they go home
Yeah.
and rub one off, thinking about how hard they bombed on stage or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think with like photography, at least the type of stuff that I do, my stuff is very inspired. So I don't just pick up my camera and just shoot. I have a whole idea and a whole set and people involved and sketches and stuff like that. And it means something. I always try to make sure that it means something. I'm not gonna shoot anything uninspired. So Um, and when I do that, it's like I'm peeling away my skin and letting somebody take a look into my soul because I'm exposing my soul. It's almost like, you're sitting there and you're standing in front of somebody completely naked and letting them have to judge you, and it's a really vulnerable place. It might be the most vulnerable place at least that I am in my life whenever I put my work out there. Um, so yeah, man, like, and some people love it and some people maybe they don't.
But I feel like you can see that in your photograph.
Oh, thank you, man.
Like your photographs will elicit some kind of like material response. You know what I
Thank you,
mean?
man. I'm trying.
Like I can feel emotion in those photographs. And I think that's what separates you from a lot of people. There's a few photographers around town that I love following their work. Uh, Lou Kingle, shout out Lou Kingle. I don't know if you know
No,
Lou.
I would love to meet him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. His photography work is amazing, but he's one that just goes out shooting.
Yeah, I respect that. I wish
And,
I could.
and so it's a totally different style than what you do, but both ways kind of elicit a response.
Yeah.
And touches something emotionally. And you can tell that you put a lot of thought into your photograph.
And thank you, man.
What is your creative process like for a photograph? So if you have something in mind, a feeling that you're trying to get out through a photograph, you sit down and journal out your thoughts on that, or
Sometimes.
what is your creative process?
Yeah, sometimes like I thought of this image the other day, and I was like, anytime I think of like, because I'm a very lonely dude. I've been through divorce now. Anytime I'm on my like,
Lonely, dude.
yeah,
Look at
yeah,
you looking all swole in that sweater.
no, no,
You are Louisville's most eligible bachelor,
No.
man.
no, man, I'm not. I wish, but
If that shirt was any snugger, we might have to be beating the women off the doors
Yeah,
at
right.
the tattoo shop tonight.
Oh man. So I don't
That's
know.
why that's why they put us in that booth over the Gave and Rye earlier.
That was weird.
So
No, I was like, man,
put us in the honeymoon booth.
they put us in a honey. I said, do we look like a couple of you? And I was like, what is happening here? Next to the loudest crowd, the whole place is empty. They stick us next to. There was a table of about 14, the loudest people you'd ever met in your life, and stick us right next to them. Walk past about 50 empty booths right next to them.
Yeah, in
Anyway.
the honeymoon booth, the circular honeymoon booth.
I said, is this shaped like a heart, isn't it? And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, I think it is. I think it is actually. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an art to feeding people, and she missed that one.
Yeah, really, man. God bless. But
sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
No.
Your creative process.
Oh,
You have an idea in mind.
Also like yeah, an idea the other day, extremely lonely. So I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what does that usually look like? And you kind of can run the gamut of like what loneliness is depicted by sometimes, and sometimes to me it's like a ghost. And I love like the interpretation of the ghost just wearing a sheet, with the eyes cut out and stuff like that. And then I'm thinking, what's a stereotypical thing that people do when they're depressed? And I'm like, eat ice cream. So I had this idea for Billy Smith. I was going to have him shoot it, but he overslept. He wasn't there. I'm not trying to call you out, Billy. This happened, and so we're there waiting on him. And I'm going to shoot this photo of him. He didn't make it, unfortunately. He will. He'll be back. We're gonna shoot him. But so you will see the photo. And basically, I was gonna have like a ghost like eating an ice cream cone, and for me, that is just a depiction of like loneliness and depression. And I think that some people might get that and they might feel that based on how we can transfer those emotions and onto screen. But things like that. Sometimes I shoot the image and I sit and I look at it for hours and I'm thinking, what's the story here, and what is it saying to me and stuff, and then I add all of the things that I'm thinking in it, and it could be just a very basic photo, but a lot of it's heavy manipulations and stuff like that of you know images that I initially started with, and um, sometimes I come up with the story later. But yeah, I love to shoot anything that's inspired and that might evoke some sort of emotion in somebody.
You often reshoot, like you'll shoot it with one person and then look at it and be like, that's not quite what I had in my head, and reshoot it with someone else. Have you ever done that?
No,
Or no?
I should, but I think that model would probably be because they become these characters and stuff, and
And that,
they're
that was going
thinking,
to be my next
yeah,
question. Like,
they'd be upset with me.
yeah.
So I think that, and if I did, I'd probably do it with that same person. But I think that like I give the idea to them and see if anything, or I'll send them a list of ideas and see if anything calls to them, and if they see something that they think is them, then they're like, this is me. I am this character, and they become that character, and it's also I'll shoot 1,000 photos and I'll edit one image, so it'll be an hours of shoot, and then we'll edit one.
Yeah, that's like I said, I don't pretend to be a photographer, but I take some photographs from my son's lacrosse team,
That's
and
awesome.
it'll be that way. I'll do 1,000 photos, 2,000 photos, just snapping pictures, sports, action shots, and then I may narrow it down and post 60 of them, of all the kids, and they have a field day after that. But it's always funny going through the SD card. And it's like, why did I take 2,800 pictures
Yeah,
of
it's
these
easy
games
too,
today?
right?
Yeah, like it's
Yep.
so easy. And I think we're spoiled, like having this digital age.
Oh yeah,
Like, could you imagine having to like go to a dark room, expose,
I couldn't.
like, in the cost of all that film and everything? Like, I think we're spoiled a little bit with
Oh yeah,
technology.
yeah. There'd be no way I could do what I do with that way. No way.
How many hours? Like, so if you have an idea for a photograph and you go shoot that photograph, how many hours are you spending post shooting and your editing?
Mm. The shoot usually is pretty fast, but it'll be a couple hours. We'll shoot a few hours, sometimes 3 4 hours. But um, and then when I get the photo into Photoshop and stuff like that, then the editing process. I mean, I've spent 40 plus hours on one photo before. It's a long
Wow.
time. Yeah, it's contingent upon what it is and what it takes and stuff like that, and trial and error and stuff. I always like to you know, push the envelope and do things I haven't done before and do very risky things and stuff. And risky to me because it's not risque, but like risky that I might mess this whole thing up and then I have to throw it all away. And there's a lot of images that I spent hundreds of hours on and never put it out ever.
Dude, I got a closet full of paintings. Like, why don't you give those to somebody or sell those? I'm like, there's just something about it that I don't like.
Yeah.
She's like, but other people would love it. And I'm like, but I don't. Like, it's not going out into the public.
Yeah, I'm the same. I won't do it, man. And
Our own worst critic.
yeah.
Sometimes.
But sometimes I revisit it like years later and I'm like, wow, it's better than I thought and I'm gonna give it another go and see if I can fix it to where I like it.
Let me give you a real funny Billy Smith story.
Yeah.
Real quick. Shout out Billy Smith, man.
I love it.
Billy's another one I go way back with. I go back probably a few years before I met you. Billy was coming by training at our old dojo, and I ended up cornering Billy for a fight. And I believe it was a Hard Rock show. I'm cornering Billy, and I'll never forget. We get to the cage. He's in the cage, and he turns around to the cage and he says, "Here, I forgot. Hold my teeth, bro."
He's crazy, man.
and
I
like
love this guy.
took his teeth out and handed me his teeth like through the chain links of the cage.
No way.
Yeah, so I'm like now I'm like standing cage side, like waiting for this fight to start, like while holding dude's teeth in my hand. And we had some wild ones, man. I cornered him for a few fights, and he had some good fights. He was always down for a scrap, man.
Yeah, he is,
He
man.
had hands.
Yeah.
And
A lot of people probably wouldn't want to stand with him, man. He's a good
Yeah.
boxer, and he's a really good guy too, man.
couldn't defend the takedown to save his life.
Yeah.
But he had hands.
Yeah.
He had hands.
But we talked about earlier, but the fights do start standing.
The fights do start
he's extremely dangerous, with his hands. But he is a great guy, man. He's accomplished a lot, like in doing like even his modeling and stuff, his acting. His acting comes such a long way, man. He's really good at that. He's been great.
Yeah, I've seen him in all kinds of stuff, man. He's one of them dudes that's had a ton of different lives as well.
Yeah, I put him in one of my faults too. I love Billy,
Yeah, dude. I'd say me and Billy go way back, man. Probably 2004, we probably punched each other in the face for the first time.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's awesome.
Old school MMA days.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit earlier. We met training martial arts. You don't train anymore, do you?
No, I would love to, but no. But I still like to go to MMA events and stuff that like friends put on. It's really good, amazing. He's such a good guy too.
So shout out Phil Perkins, Future of Fighting. If you're an MMA fan and you live anywhere around Louisville, check them out, man. Yeah. Future of Fighting, putting on some tremendous shows locally. They had some great cards. I think some of them are being shown on UFC Fight Pass.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man.
I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I saw something about that.
I could see that. And Phil's just such a good guy, man.
He's got such a good team around him. The color commentary team is great. But shout out Phil Perkins, Future of Fighting. If you're in Louisville, check that out if you're an MMA fan.
Yeah.
So I got to know. We kind of discussed it earlier. Top 3 favorite all-time MMA fighters.
Oh man, okay. So we did talk about it.
I never heard your 3, but go ahead and give everybody else your rundown.
I've got Fedor tattooed on me, so Fedor number 1. Listen, my favorite. I'm not talking about best. Maybe you have a different opinion of who's best. I think he's the best. But
all right, we're here in the tattoo shop. Right, this is a tattoo out of 508 Baxter Avenue in Louisville, Kentucky. Your Fedor tattoo is one of my favorite tattoos of all time.
No way, man. Thank you so much.
So, for those that have never seen it, Antonio has a tattoo of Fedor Emelianenko armbarring God. So, if that tells you anything, we bonded over Fedor back in the day. But it is the creation of man where God is reaching out, touching fingertips with Adam, right? Yeah. But instead, God set his arm out and Fedor's armbar. It is the greatest tattoo I've had. Maybe my favorite one ever.
Oh man, thank you. I love that tattoo.
Yeah, dude. Because I'll just go ahead and say, like, I am in lockstep with you. Fedor is my favorite fighter.
Yeah.
And I think he's the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Me too.
As far as MMA.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you just had to be there for it, and if you weren't, then you didn't know like what kind of threats that he was actually up against. Because you're just like, oh, he fought Crow Cop, and like we talked about, Roy Nelson knocked out Crow Cop, Brennan Schaub knocked out. Oh, you didn't know Crow Cop when he was who everybody was afraid of.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the new school casuals, they don't know about those old Pride days, and they'd have 100,000 people in the Cycloma Super Arena.
Yeah,
you could hear a pin drop, and
and
it was Fedor's stoic he was.
Yeah,
he just never showed emotion. It was just savage. It was like he was a robot.
Yeah.
And, he's number 1 on my list. If you look at his resume, he took some losses late in his career, but early in his career, he was an absolute animal and beat everybody that was everybody.
Yeah, he went undefeated for 10 years fighting the world's scariest people.
Yeah, and some of the biggest too, man.
8 UFC champions.
You were talking about near-death experiences earlier, when Kevin randomly slammed him on his head with that back suplex. That was one of the most insane moments.
And about 35 seconds later, Fedor turned him around on like a Kimura. Yeah, that's right.
I got him with the Kimura. And dude, some of those fights, I miss the days of Pride.
Yeah, me too.
I really do miss.
I love the respect. Like when there's like a really good grappling match, like Sakuraba and Carlos Newton had like one of the best grappling matches I've ever seen. It was a fight,
Yes.
but they almost like lightweight agreed not to punch each other or something. But it was a beautiful grappling match. And anytime they had a transition, the crowd would clap softly. They wouldn't boo. They wouldn't even cheer. They were just clapping.
So I used to write for a couple of different magazines. I had a couple articles published by like Fighters Only magazine, and then I wrote for MMAfighting.com.
Oh yeah.
And one of the articles that I wrote back then after Pride dissolved, I watched the fight. I don't even remember who it was, but the crowd was booing the second that it hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it struck a nerve with me. And so I wrote an article called Lost with No Sense of Pride.
Mm. Wow.
And talked about the difference between Japan and America when it came to it and how they would cheer for a position change. Not a submission, not a knockout, a position change. And they would go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And be dead silent in there. Hear a mouse piss on cotton. And then like one little leg sweep and the place would go crazy.
Yeah.
And I miss the Pride days.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
The number two there, Pride Sakuraba.
Yeah, that's my number. That's so. Chris and I have the same number 2 favorite fighter of all time.
Number 1 and
Sakuraba.
2,
yeah. Number 1 and 2 both. Kazushi Sakuraba are both number 2.
The Gracie Killers.
Yeah. And like I said, you just had to be there for it, man, because a lot of those guys were unstoppable at the time. And Sakuraba went 90 minutes before 90 minutes in a fight.
You know? He beat 5 or 6 Gracies in a row.
Yeah. In devastating fashion.
Yeah, he Kimura too.
Yeah. Euler and Henzo.
Yeah.
And then Hein Gracie, I think, he beat him. Beat the break off.
Yeah, I would say I think he just whipped his ass.
Yeah. Literally spanked him.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yep.
And he beat Nico Belfort. He beat, annihilated him.
And allegedly drunk almost every single one of those fights.
Really?
Well, oh yeah. Sakuraba was like a notorious mush.
Rampage choked him out.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, he was.
And he was small, fighting like he was a lot of times not the bigger of those guys.
Yeah.
We have the same 1 and 2 Fedor. Who you have coming in the third spot? It's tough.
Yeah, I think so. Probably either the axe murderer, Vanderlei Silva, in Pride, not UFC Vanderlei Silva. After he got out of UFC the first time and went to Pride, that's the one that I love, and not the when he came back. And then
he was scary, man. He looked like one of them, one of the characters from like 30 Days of Night.
Yeah. Wow. Seriously, he does.
Yeah, he kind of had that look about him, and he was dangerous. He was scary.
He's so scary, man.
Scary.
Yeah, and I think that the way that the Americans got like introduced to him, even when Pride came to America with Dan Henderson, he got knocked out. That's not the one that we.
Yeah, that's not the one that he would lock his hands and he'd do that wrist rolling. You're like, yep, somebody's about to die.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
All right, we're gonna
and
watch
he even fought open weight Grand Prix and everything. He was so scary, man. But yeah, I think, and he fought Mark Hunt. I remember. At Crow Cop at heavyweight, insane. But that was cool. And then I think a split between him and Royce Gracie, man, in the early UFC days. I started watching UFC at UFC 3, and like that was, he fought Chemo that time. I think he had broken his arm, and he came out to fight Harold Howard. I think he was battling before the fight started. But that one, before and after that was amazing to watch.
I give nothing but credit to Royce Gracie and the Gracie family for the transition that they pulled in martial arts in America. But he never was one of my favorite fighters. Never
really
liked watching. You know what I mean? It wasn't somebody that's like, oh, I can't wait to watch him fight.
Yeah.
To me, it was more like, oh, I can't wait to watch that dude get that.
Really, you want to push the lose?
Yeah. There's just something about it I never could get behind.
Yeah.
Now, this is coming from somebody that trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years.
Yeah.
But just something about him, like he never was one of my favorite fighters.
Yeah.
Matt Hughes maybe in that number 3 spot. I'd have to think really hard about it. Maybe Matt.
Yeah, Matt Hughes. Yeah. He had a good run, man. A really good run for a long time.
Yeah. And Anderson Silva's up there too. I was a big fan of Anderson Silva at that time.
Yeah, same. He's great, man.
We used to have a lot more local fights.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. Like I think with MMA, it wasn't on TV as much. We would have one pay per view every 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then when the Ultimate Fighter came on, we actually had a show on TV. And then you had like I don't know if you remember the IFL days where they had teams that fought.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
And you had Bodog that was fighting on the beach.
Yeah.
And like once those hit the TV airwaves, we had MMA a little bit more. But man, it used to be such a struggle to have to wait. Now to fight every week where you can catch 10 different organizations in a week.
Oh yeah.
Watered down the market a little bit, so I don't watch and follow as much as I used to. Do you still follow it pretty closely?
I'm in it deep, man. Yeah, I love it, dude. It's a really good time to be a fan because if the fans want a fight, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're vocal enough, they will make it happen.
And there's been some really good ones though. There have been some really good fights. I still watch them, but I don't like have as much of a reading.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find other things to occupy my time.
Yeah.
Most of the time now on Fridays and Saturdays I'm at a comedy show.
That's awesome.
I don't get to watch as much as I can. But
I always watch it with either my buddy Tony Thomas, who's an amazing guy, or he's trained too. He was I think he went pro. He might have been him and his brother. They're crazy good, but you know him.
We wrestled together at high school. Me,
No
Tony,
way.
and Mike all wrestled together.
No way. They're good guys.
At Moore, where Mike is the coach.
Yeah.
And shout out to Thomas Brothers.
Oh, they're amazing.
We only had about 6 people on our wrestling team.
No way.
And so me, Tony, and Mike did a bunch of extra fundraisers and stuff. We would go train with other schools.
Wow.
And so I went to college on a wrestling scholarship.
Yeah.
And because of the hard work that we put in there at Moore.
That's insane, man. That's
we didn't have a great program. We barely had enough to make a team. We couldn't win team matches because we didn't have enough.
Yeah. Now they're doing really good with Mike.
Mike has turned that program around.
Yeah.
But Mike graduated the year before me, and Tony graduated the year after.
Okay.
So we were all three, but we wrestled together for all those years.
That's so awesome, dude.
Played football together, too.
No way, man. That's so cool, man.
Then just a full turnaround moment, we all fought together on the same card one night.
No freaking way.
Yeah, there were some fights. I think it was at Expo 5, maybe, I don't know, Hurstbourne Hotel, somewhere. I think it was Expo 5. But me, Mike, Tony, and another kid who was one of Mike's students on the wrestling team.
Yeah.
Fought that
That's
night.
so
there
funny,
were 4 more wrestlers on the card that night. We all won.
That's so cool, man.
And I think we all Tony's was like all 3 rounds, but I think the rest of us all that first round finishes. Mike, somebody about Von Flucho.
Oh, he might have told me about this recently.
Yeah. Dude,
I think there's a video of it floating around too.
He's Von Flucho somebody.
That's a tricky joke.
Yeah, dude, that's what I remember. But yeah, I know Tony. Shout out to Tony.
He's awesome.
Rec Bar, all of his stuff he's got going on. Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, I watch with those guys. Him, obviously, Tony's amazing, and then I watch with the Super Retro podcast guys who are so funny. Tuck and Will, they're blowing up right now. They're killing it. They got their podcast. They're kicking ass. But yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, man, it's fun, dude. I don't really miss the martial arts. I'll take this, trade my punches for punchlines.
Yeah, man.
And just have a good time.
I don't miss being injured all the time. I mean, I guess I still am because I'm like old in the gym. So yeah. But Will says something funny. He's always like, "You don't want to get in that top 10. You do not want to be in that top 10 because dude, they do throw you to the wolves. Like, as soon as you start getting in the top 10 of like that UFC organization, man, it's like dude, you're fighting somebody who's a killer.
And if you get if a couple of them are hurt, you might be the 10 guy, but you might be fighting the 2 guy for an interim belt right away.
Yeah. And what's funny, man, is like any of those guys in UFC right now, like you're somebody sitting at home like, I would do this and that. Dude, the baddest dude in the MMA gym at your local MMA, the baddest dude in there, that dude on UFC would run straight through that dude.
Yeah.
That would, and you too. And like those guys are legit, man. It's totally different, man.
We got some local fighters that have been making a little bit of waves.
We got some good ones.
Yeah, we got some really Nate Amos just made his bare knuckle fighting championship debut.
Yeah, man.
Beat the shit out of somebody.
Really, man? Yep.
Yeah, so that was really cool to see too.
There's another bare knuckle Chase. I follow him on Instagram. He's a really good guy. He's from here. Um, oh man, his last name is escaping me, but he's amazing.
Yeah, dude. What do you think about that? What do you think about bare knuckle fighting?
I
Do you
love
get
it.
into it? Do you?
I watch it. I like
That'd
it.
be cool, man. I'd get into it.
I don't like the slap stuff unless there's some highlights, but I like.
It's just it seems like they're just trying to get blamed out.
Yeah.
Like it's just I can't get into the slap fighting thing, but bare knuckle I'd be glad.
Really good, man. Like the last, I've seen highlights from like the last two events, and they had two one-punch knockouts from the. These guys stand close to each other when the bell rings,
Yeah.
and like within striking distance, like half a step, and then you can strike. And two of these fights, like they're like the fastest knockouts of all time. Like dude throws one punch, and then they're down, and that's it. And that happened two times the last two events.
I like to think that if we had bare knuckle fighting back in the day, I probably
You would have did it, man.
happened.
I think you would too.
I think I probably would have done it.
You just get excited about that stuff.
I do,
And
man.
you guys might not know, but he's very passionate. So like if he commits to something, like he's in. He's in. He's got tunnel vision. He's gonna know everything about it, and he's gonna be good at it.
Yeah, that's the way I try to
Yeah.
live my life. But I think if it was around, I probably would.
I could see it. Yeah. It's funny because we were talking earlier, and a lot of people don't know him. Like he said that he's like Forrest Gump because he has lived a lot of life, and I know him through a lot of these lives, but a lot of people don't know him that he's like used to be a fighter, so they might only know him as a comedian. They might only know him as a tattoo artist. They might only know him as like a landscaper who does like make art out of landscape. They might only know him in some of these ways, but they don't know that he's like also a comedian. They might know that he also does paintings. They might not know that he can also like run straight through you and your homies.
Yeah, I was gonna choke the shit out of you. Just
Yeah.
remember that when you fucking comedian.
He's done that to me, and I'm his friend. He
Yeah,
choked the shit out of me.
Well, it's great. Like everybody, very few people ever choke me, but that's only because I don't have a back. You know what I
That's
mean?
so
Like
funny.
that.
You said that to me before because I went for a choke on him for
Yeah,
like 5
dude.
minutes straight, and I could not get it. Obviously,
You're not going to.
no, you
Like,
can't choke.
like this is my choke defense, so I'm sitting here, I can do it. That's it. That's all I got to do. Now I'm unchokeable.
Yeah, I could not. I couldn't do it. And then you submitted me with the same choke like 2 minutes later, dude.
Yeah, dude. I miss those days, man. That was when Chris Griffin was just starting at school, man.
Yeah.
Remember we put down the foam and he got the
Yep.
banners from the billboards and we put those down and stapled them and dude, that was old school, man.
Yeah.
And I had my first fight in the cage in 2002.
Dang, that's crazy.
And it was 23 years ago since I had my first fight. It's been 10 years since my last fight.
Think about how much that fight game has changed in 23 years, man.
Yeah. We didn't even have a commission for the first 6 years that I fought.
Yeah.
There was no commission in Kentucky that regulated the sport.
That's insane, man.
And I had a fight get stopped due to a cut, and I threw a holy fit. Only fight I lost due to a cut. And I threw a holy fit with the commission.
Yeah.
You're like, you think you can do better? Then sign up. We're taking applications.
And you did, didn't you?
And I did, and I became a judge for
right.
like 7 straight years. I judged MMA. Had some of the greatest times in cage watching fights.
I remember you'd post videos and stuff like that a long time ago, and I remember there was a fight, and it went viral because it was like both guys were over 300 pounds or something like that, and they knocked off the cage door or something.
No, that was Brandon Bishop. And,
oh, was it? You posted that, didn't you?
Yeah, and he ended up making it on that show, World's Dumbest.
Nuh-uh, for real?
Yeah,
oh, wow. That was Brandon Bishop fighting?
Brandon Bishop fighting. I was sitting right beside the cage door, and the dude came pulling across the ring, and they hit, and the cage door flew open, and they both knocked themselves out on the concrete floor.
No way, man.
That was at a Hard Rock show in Shepherdsville, the Parakeet.
Oh, I used to love the Hard Rock shows, man.
And shout out Brandon Hard Rock Eggsy, man.
He's doing another event too that was really good. B2.
Yeah, B2
awesome.
Fighting Series, yeah. Brandon Bishop knocked himself out.
Dang, I didn't know that was Brandon Bishop.
That was the same night. So, remember when John Jones used to do the thing when he was coming to the cage? And he would crawl kind of like a monkey, like a monkey gate thing.
Yeah.
And these two dudes had beef. And one of them decided, like, the ref says fight. And the dude decided to come across the cage like that. But the other dude just straight soccer kicked him
I saw that.
face.
Yep, I remember that.
like Ironhead Vegeta style from Pride. He just
Yep.
soccer kicked him in the teeth and knocked him out cold. And then the next fight is the Brandon Bishop fight where they fell out of the cage on their head.
What a night.
And dude, like, what a night! And I got paid handsomely to sit ringside and just watch the shenanigans. But there was another fight though where it was a dude that was like 540 pounds versus a dude that was like 380.
Yeah.
And they hit the cage, and the whole cage shifted. I thought they were gonna fall out on top of it. Yeah, so I love it, man. I still love it, but I had to step away, dude. I can't do it anymore. But I do miss it. I miss those old days. You know, we were around in the old school. It's cool to be able to sit back and reminisce on them now.
Yeah, I think so too.
You had that blue Adidas tee on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You
had blue one too, right?
Yeah, I had the
That's
blue.
right.
I had the blue Fuji.
Yeah.
I remember you had the blue Adidas tee because that thing was stiff as shit.
It was so hard to grab.
Yeah, dude, it was so stiff. I hated that fucking tee,
Yeah.
man. Made it so hard to choke you with it.
Yeah. People couldn't get me in geek choke with that thing.
Yeah, I remember that, dude. I remember distinctly the blue Adidas tee.
I love when people had like a beginner's tee because I rodeo choke them always. Man.
Oh yeah, dude, those soft single weave tees that you could just.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a little nerd talk for some jiu-jitsu fans out there. You can appreciate that. What do you got coming up? You got anything cool? Any fun?
Yeah. So I met with a producer last week. He's a really close friend of mine, and we have elected to move forward on this idea that we had. And I can't say too much about it, and I hate leaving cliffhangers. That's not super cool. But I will say the film is really cool. It's going to be really fun, and we're in our research phase right now of it. So it's going to be really different, I think. And it's got a really, for me, it's a huge budget. It's an 8 times bigger budget right now than One Must Fall. So I think it.
You gonna do some crowdfunding for it? Or?
No, it's just going to be this one person is going to fund it, and and they really believe in it, and they're going to help write it as well. They're really invested in it right now, like figuratively and literally, and so I might put a bunch of my own money in it, and I think if it calls for it, we might get some other investors as well. But it's right now it's 8 times bigger than One Must Fall as far as budget is concerned.
You have a slate on when you're expecting to start shooting? You're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to start shooting like June-ish, maybe before. That'll be great. I should have. I'm gonna have a draft of the script done like soon, like this week. And this month. I write fast, and although I'm like extremely busy this month, I will make time and I'll write it, and I'll have to draft out, and then we're gonna be going back and forth for a while, and probably during that process when we're going back and forth, we'll probably begin casting.
Now, are you going to be the director? You're directing.
Yeah, right.
They're just helping write.
Yeah,
and you'll be the director.
Yeah.
It's exciting, man. I can't wait to check that one out, dude.
You
mentioned a little bit over there a little bit ago while we were next door, so I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to see how this comes out.
Man, thank you, man. I'm really pumped about it.
Where can they find you at the Voice Tribune? Is that somewhere that they can look up your stuff?
Yeah, just anywhere, man. Like I said, I could recommend a million better people.
But listen, I'm not doing it, Antonio. We're here talking about you right now.
Oh, thank you, man.
Everybody check him out. Antonio Pantoja on everything. Dude, tremendous work. Like I say, I admire your ability to be able to follow your dreams and
reciprocal.
Take that risk, man.
You do too, man. It's reciprocal.
I do. I try to take those risks and try to live life too, man. You have kids. I have kids. Like part of it is leaving a little bit of legacy for them and leaving something that they can be proud of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I get kind of cool points with a 14-year-old son. His dad has the coolest jobs in the world, like the tattoos and the stand-up comedian. So
yeah.
I get cool points, and now I just want to do those things so I can get those cool dad points, you know. And but I commend you on taking that leap, and it's been inspirational to see where you've gone from those days just doing the phone sales to us rolling around on the floor over at Griff to where you are now, full-length feature films and all of your successes. It's been an inspiration, and I feel personally like lucky to be able to call you a friend.
Oh man, that means the world. Same.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get you in here, man. I've been saying it for years that I'm gonna let you tattoo me.
I'm ready.
Point. So we're gonna get you back in here at the tattoo shop, and I'm gonna get a. You don't have to do a full portrait of like Fedor, Armbar, and God, but we're gonna come up with a little something we're gonna do. Maybe when this movie comes out,
oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
We can do the logo, or we can do. Yeah. We'll come up with something.
We should get a tattoo. We'll tattoo each other. Maybe we'll get a tattoo together.
Yeah, dude. I'll let you throw some ink on me for this new movie.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, awesome. That's same.
We'll get this up. I should have put a number of views. It should have been like we get 200,000 views and I'll get the tattoo. But I already said I would now. So
yeah,
we're gonna do the best thing. Antonio, thank you so much for coming by, man. I appreciate it. Everybody.